Evan Turing said, "Hello everyone.
My psycho friend is demanding that I give back a couch and a TV that she gave to me over a year ago, claiming that if I don't give it back, she'll call the police on me and have me arrested. But despite the my best friend literally tried to sabotage my marriage by lying to me about my husband cheating on me. And now, after being confronted that she was absolutely lying to us, she is now playing the victim and has blocked everybody in our lives. And at this point, we really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old female, and I met my best friend, who we will call Sarah, and her husband when I was 11 years old. I just moved to a new country with my family, and my now sister-in-law introduced me to Sarah. Now that we're adults, we share some friends, but we each have different groups to do different things. So usually, I'm working at the office from 9 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have a 30-minute break that I usually take to have my second breakfast, and sometimes take a walk to my husband's office 5 minutes away, or down to a cafe near my job. And sometimes I have to work out of my office or go to another city. Every now and then, I mention to Sarah if I have to travel for work during the week in casual conversations. And last week, I had to travel for work on Wednesday, but Tuesday night, there was a red alert about the weather the next day, so my work thing was canceled and I stayed home with my 2-year-old. My husband went out at 6 o'clock in the morning to make sure his business was closed and put up some flood protection. And by 7:30, he was back at home making breakfast. It didn't start raining until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock p.m., Sarah sent a message asking if I was at home already because it was flooding where I was traveling. And I just texted back that I was home safe as we literally just didn't go out until Friday. On Saturday, Sarah and I go to the same gym class. And it was right here that she told me that we needed to talk in private. So we went to my car, and that's when she told me something absolutely unbelievable. She said to me, "On Wednesday, I saw your husband with a woman, and they were making out, and your kid was in the car." Now, when she said this, I was frozen for a bit. But then I remembered that I was working from home with my husband and my baby for 2 days. I realized she was lying, but I didn't understand anything. I asked her 3 times if she was sure it was this week's Wednesday, and she confirmed it 3 times. I asked her what time this all happened, and she said 11 o'clock in the morning. I asked her if it was during the red alert, and she also said yes. I then asked her if she was 100% sure, and she then launched into a whole description of my husband making out with a gorgeous Barbie look-alike blonde girl in his car, all in front of our kid near his office during the red alert. So he was apparently putting my son at risk and cheating in front of him. Well, it's then that I told her that my work thing was suspended because of the red alert, and we were both home the entire time it was activated. And she tried to say she got confused with the days, but she confirmed it 3 times. I then told her to leave, and she left running. I went home and did the whole betrayed spouse home search, and there was no hidden phones. I mean, I have all the passwords to every device in this house, and this is not because of a lack of trust, but it's because literally I manage part of his business and he's bad with passwords. I even looked for hidden emails, and the only thing he was hiding was some kind of like paranormal podcast that he listens to sometimes. That night, I told my husband what was going on, and he denied ever cheating, and even worse, disrespecting his son in that way. And I believe him 100%. There wasn't a change in his behavior or his routine, and he gave up his phone right away, and I told him I already checked everything in the house, and he told me to check his car then. It was then at that moment we decided to call Sarah together. She picked up the 3rd call and she was crying. I then told her to just tell me why she lied to me. She then swore she wasn't lying, but told me she got confused with Monday. So I told her Monday our son was in daycare and we had breakfast during my break. So what time did my husband take our son out of daycare, go pick up this girl to make out in front of my baby, and then back to daycare for me to pick him up and then have breakfast with me? When I asked this, she cried even more and told me that she didn't know. So then my husband told her to cut this garbage out, and that if she had just even a bit of decency, she would tell us why she was lying. Well, she said she was sorry and then hung up, and then had the audacity to block us. So I told the friends we had in common with her, and everybody is mad and can't explain what happened to her. She is not picking up the phone, but sent a message back saying that she was sick. Some of them asked her why she was lying, and she blocked them as well. Someone even called her mom, and she was just as shocked. Nobody understands what's going on. I thought maybe it was a crush, but my husband never liked her that much, so he did pay attention to her. She isn't even added to his socials because she never liked her when Sarah was his sister's friend, or when she became my friend too. They don't interact unless it is necessary to say that she's got a crush so big, she thought it was worth it to try and break a family. I do know that sometimes she gossips a little too much, or sometimes she talks about things that she shouldn't, because I never thought it would develop into something this big. I had this girl at my side for really hard moments, and I had her back when she needed me. She was one of the first persons I told about my wedding and my pregnancy. I love this girl since we were little, but now I don't understand what's happening, and I seriously don't know what to do. Oh my god, your friend is a massive piece of garbage. Here you have a friend that you could probably be friends with for literally your entire life. Like, this is literally someone you grew up with, and someone that you've spent so much time getting to know and trusting. So the audacity and fact that she turned around and was like, "Oh wow, yeah, your husband's cheating on you, and he did it in front of your son, that's really bad," only for that all to literally be a lie, like, that is so crazy. Like, what was she thinking? Was she just trying to stir up drama, or was she really trying to break up your family and take your husband? Like, there is literally no excuse for this. Like, this really is out of left field. She straight up tried to ruin your life, and now that she's been caught, she is like, "Oh man, I'm just gonna block everybody." That is not a good friend, and that is an awful person. So truly, I'm so glad that you at least found out about this, because clearly Sarah had ulterior motives. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit get your own stories. My partner's parents have become incredibly intrusive as they've been questioning me about my salary and my student loan details. So now I'm trying to figure out how to set some kind of boundaries with these people because this is incredibly annoying and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been with my partner for 7 years and his parents have been asking me incredibly personal questions, which is driving me insane. For example, I recently received an offer from my dream workplace, and over dinner, they outright asked me what the salary is and seemed upset that it isn't quite as much as what I'd be earning in the private sector. From there, they started questioning me about my student loans in some kind of effort to get me to tell them the precise amount that I have. For context, neither they nor their children have any student loans, and this is at least in part because they come from a much wealthier background than my family, but it's also due to the fact that both of my partner's parents completed all their education overseas where it's completely free. By contrast, I've completed all of my education in the United States, including graduate school, and I come from a working class family. I've worked incredibly hard to get where I'm at, and I don't think they have half a clue as to what that was like. When my partner's parents ask these questions, he is always silent and refuses to set boundaries. Unfortunately, they never seem to ask these invasive questions of their own children, but instead they only do this to me. So how should I go about setting proper boundaries with them? What should I do? Okay, honestly, the fact that your partner's not stepping up and being like, hey, shut up and stop asking that question, in my opinion, is super weird. Like seriously, why not just tell his parents to put a lid on it and stop asking these weird questions? Like if that was me, that's the first thing I would do. Isn't that obvious? Like seriously, what's going on here? And in my opinion, I don't think this should come from you at all. Like this really should be your boyfriend stepping up and being like, hey, stop asking these questions. Or even in the future, just be like, no, I'm not gonna talk about that, that's private, or something like that. Like this for me would be the first and last time they ever find out any information about me, because the way they're acting, in my opinion, is incredibly intrusive, and you do not deserve to deal with that in the slightest. An entitled customer demands that they speak to my supervisor after they got triggered over something innocent that I said. Here's what happened. Okay, so here's a story where a customer literally got triggered by one word. I used to handle customer service for Amazon some time ago, and I got this one phone call where a customer was asking to return something that she ordered. And it's like, okay, sure enough, let's go ahead and create a return label for her and return the goods. I explained the whole drill for the return, and at one point she asked what was the amount of the refund because she was within the 90-day return window and was expecting the full amount. Well, when I explained the amount, this is where things went really wrong. I said to her, okay, this is the amount you get as soon as we get the goods back. It will be about 64 bucks. When I said this, there was absolute silence. She then said to me, did you say bucks? Are you serious? Did you just say bucks? This is unacceptable. Get me a supervisor right now. As I was reaching out to my supervisor within my office, I was kind of blown away by how a customer could snap at just one word choice. In the end, my supervisor eventually took over and resolved the customer's issue while I took another call because we were super busy. The next day, I was sitting alone during my lunchtime and the supervisor sat next to me. We talked casually about the customer who demanded a supervisor just for one word, and according to him, the customer said to him, tell your management that the agent who took my call is an incompetent jerk who doesn't know how to talk. Now, I just sighed with a face that looked like I don't get paid enough to deal with this kind of crap, and my supervisor read right through my face and said, no worries. Quality control also checked the call, and certainly there was nothing wrong with it. Let's just avoid using that word from now on. Well, fast forward a few weeks later, and I got another call from the same customer. She called because her account was locked on suspected fraud, and I was like, okay, let's see what we can do here. But as soon as the customer heard my voice, she snapped again and demanded to reach out to my supervisor. She said to me, I remember you. You're that weirdo who talks like an idiot teenager. Get me your supervisor. And before she could even go any further, I decided to hang up the phone. At this rate, I had enough of customers taking it out on agents who simply did their best assisting them. Quality control once again got this call to audit, but I was set free to return to work, as it was one of the few instances where hanging up on the customer was completely valid. She went obnoxious for no reason, or in this case, just a matter of wording. Nothing ever came out of the quality control audits of these two calls, and the customer actually remained banned. And I heard this from the last few days I had running customer service all before I quit, because trust me, this job in some ways definitely was not worth it. Wow, it's really weird to get this angry over something so small. Like seriously, all he said was, okay, it's gonna be about 64 bucks. And sure, he could have said, oh yeah, it's $64. Like those words basically mean the same thing. Like, is she being serious right now? So yeah, I don't blame you for quitting that job, because dealing with customers like that had to have been exhausting. Am I the jerk for changing the locks on my apartment after my brother came in unannounced and stole my Roomba? Because even though he's moving out and getting all his belongings, that Roomba did not belong to him. And at this point, I'm incredibly frustrated and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my My brother, who we will call Chris, moved in with my boyfriend and I 7 years ago. We took pity on him after he was kicked out of my childhood home for substance use, not to mention he was also sleeping in his car. At first, Chris and my boyfriend got along great, but after a few years of living together, Chris became more reclusive and distant from both of us. Chores were not being done around the house, and I was getting sick of cleaning up after him, not to mention his negative attitude. 6 months prior to the end of our lease, I told Chris that he had to find another living situation. He did finally move out a few weeks prior to the end of our lease, and I thought we all agreed about splitting up shared appliances and valuables. But one thing we did not discuss was our shared robot mopping device. We acquired this one day at my grandma's house a few years ago. She was moving and offered it to all three of us as she would not be using it. So we brought that little robot home. Now this thing is nothing fancy. It's just a small device that you fill with some cleaning solution and attach disposable mop pads. And let me be clear, in the 4 years we have had this thing, Chris has not once paid for any replacement mopping pads, and he had never even turned the thing on. It was always my boyfriend or I splitting the cost of the pads and setting this thing up to run nightly, so we would all wake up to clean floors downstairs. Now Chris hasn't returned his key because he's slowly still moving things out, but it's been over a month now. He always showed up unannounced to our home to gather boxes and his belongings, and sometimes we wouldn't even realize he was there while we had been out. Last night my boyfriend was looking for our little robot friend as we had just gotten new pads delivered for it, but it turns out after going crazy looking for this thing, as well as texting Chris to see if he took it, he messaged us back and said, "Yeah, I took it, it's mine." And this for me was the last straw. We had been so accommodating to this man for years. I just can't believe Chris had the audacity to take our beloved robot cleaning friend without a word. I have let Chris know that we are no longer comfortable with him coming by unannounced, and if he needs anything, we will look for it ourselves. I also said he can return his key to the office and we will pick it up. Well, he responds in a way that I honestly didn't expect. He says to us, "Stop being weird. I don't want any of your trash. I already had all my useful grow equipment stolen anyways. Stop texting me before you make me mad." Now the grow stuff referred to is an indoor greenhouse and hydroponics, which by the way, was verbally agreed for an even split of materials, since both Chris and my boyfriend acquired the equipment together. My boyfriend then ordered cameras that will be here tomorrow, and I've contacted the leasing office to make them aware of the animosity between us, while also requesting that the locks need to be changed. So I really want to know, did I take this too far? This robot is not at all expensive, but it's more about the principle to me. I feel really disrespected. We all have to see each other next week for Thanksgiving, and I just know that it will be awkward. What should I do? No, in my opinion, I don't think you've done anything wrong, and I don't think you're the jerk. Chris crossed a serious line here. Sure, he had a key to the house to get his stuff out of the house, but he took something that didn't belong to him. Like that for me, in my opinion, is all that matters in this story. He stole something that explicitly was not his, even though he's claiming, "Oh yeah, that's mine, I'm taking it." It's like, okay, if he's willing to take that, then what else is he willing to take? So in my opinion, I think you're completely within your rights to be like, yeah, we're changing the locks and you're not welcome here anymore. And also, this guy is super lazy. It's been a month and he still doesn't have all of his garbage out of your house. Like, come on, that would have taken like at least a week at the most. There's no way this should have been stretched out this long. Like if he really wants his stuff so badly, then maybe the curb will be a good home for his belongings since he can't respect yours. But either way, you're definitely not the jerk, because Chris, in my opinion, is completely out of line. My girlfriend has been spending way too much time with another guy, even going as far as spending the night with him after they went to a concert together. And now, after dealing with this for so long, I seriously feel so lost and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been together for over a year and a half now. We are doing long distance and only see each other about 3 times a year, and this is usually with a month-and-a-half visit. This girl has been my world and has significantly influenced my outlook on life. I never knew that I could love a person this much, so I guess this is why I am so conflicted. And although we have our ups and downs, our relationship is generally really great, and I've had the best moments of my life spent with her. But unfortunately, in the span of just a month and a half, there have been quite a few issues that have happened. The first issue is that she has this guy best friend who flew to where she lives to attend a love song concert with her. They also live in the same country. He then proceeded to rent an expensive sports car to bring my girlfriend out for a fancy lunch and dinner, and then after that they went to the love song concert, and then she brings this guy home for a sleepover. She told me about it a week before the event, saying, "Hey, I'm going to a concert with him and he's crashing at my place." And as a side note, she only told me that she was going to do it and never bothered to ask if I'd be okay with it. At this point, I'm super uncomfortable, especially with the lack of respect from the both of them. Like, do I even exist? Neither of them thought that I, her boyfriend, might not be okay with their special day and their sleepover. So yeah, I was clearly uncomfortable with it and she could tell, but I did not want to get in between their friendship, so I just held it in. Since then, I have tried talking to her about how troubled I was by it, and every time I did, she flipped things on me, like saying that I don't make enough money and I don't update her often when I'm at the gym, and every time I end up apologizing and promising to do better for her. She only addresses my concerns with stuff like, oh, he's just a friend. I've known him for ages. I did not cheat on you. I can't change the past. She never showed genuine empathy for the pain she caused me, never saying things like, oh, I'm so sorry and I'll never do it again. And her apologies always had an annoyed tone to them. She also had tears in her eyes and side-eyed me saying, I already told you that I'm sorry. She also posted a story with a guy best friend publicly, and I caught a glimpse of her phone and they took selfies together. In contrast, while she's visiting my country right now, she has never taken a single selfie with us together, nor posted a story with me in it. I confronted her about this, and her response was to say, him and I just don't see each other often. And I was thinking, what are you talking about? What about us? We are literally doing long-distance dating. She also tends to compare my capabilities to the guy best friends, and she actually puts me down and puts him on a pedestal, even mentioning how rich this guy is. Another issue is that she regularly complains that I do not provide for her. During her visit going on right now, I spent hours on consecutive days, including my work days, driving her around and helping her move stuff, and she was unappreciative of my efforts and only thanked me when I asked for one. We discussed the provide matter seriously, and I laid everything out I could provide, and she cried saying this is not the life I want. She says that just my time and effort is not enough, so she's basically saying I need to spend more money on her, I guess. After all this, I broke down crying like I've never done before, sobbing like crazy, and I was teary-eyed for days. I thought to myself that she was not the same person I love so dearly. I felt that I have once again let myself down, and after a few days of not talking, I made up my mind to end things. I expressed that I don't feel appreciated, and the lack of respect from her and her guy best friend are a deal breaker for me. Well, she saw the extent of it and finally became more apologetic this time. She convinced me to give the relationship another go, and I reluctantly agreed, which then leads to my third issue. We traveled to Korea, and I was using her phone to take a photo of her, and a message came in from the guy best friend, and that's when I saw that he called my girlfriend Babe. I confronted her about it and asked if she calls him Babe too, and she told me that she does and tells me that it doesn't mean anything. Well, this got me incredibly uncomfortable, especially after the breakup attempt that just happened. She clearly knows the extent of all of it and still receives Babe messages from him, but once again, I just held it in because we were on holiday. So here I am now. Our relationship has rekindled after the Korea trip, but I am still constantly thinking about the deal breakers and her behavior towards it all, and I honestly just don't think I can look past them. In the past, I've always promised that I'd do better for our future, but after what happened with the guy best friend, I don't feel like I want to work harder for her in particular anymore. So honestly, I feel so lost and I really don't know what to do. Okay, for me personally, this is so sketchy from your girlfriend. She basically went on a date with her best friend and had a sleepover with him, and she's also calling him Babe over messaging. Like, that sounds really weird. And I don't know about you, but using the word babe is kind of almost exclusively used for, like, I don't know, someone in a relationship. So for that to be used on a supposed friend outside of the relationship, like, that is a massive red flag, and that is not something I would ever ignore. But with all things considered, I don't blame you for being frustrated. It really seems like she wants a lot out of you, but doesn't really give anything else in return. So hopefully it all works out for you, because this kind of treatment is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's aunt that I could call the cops on her after she stole my Coachella ticket? Because right now, I seriously feel I've ruined the family dynamics we used to have, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I've been with my boyfriend for 6 years, and I've known his aunt throughout those years. We were actually pretty close, but she now lives with his parents because she cheated on her husband, and the new boyfriend now lives there as well. So we moved to an apartment, but still get our items shipped to our parents since our place is kinda sketchy. And I had bought Coachella tickets and I sent them to his house. Well, 2 weeks before Coachella, the person I was going to Coachella with got COVID, and so we decided to sell our tickets. The only problem is that my ticket never came in. We kept asking everyone who lived in the house for weeks if they had seen the package, to which they all said no. We searched the living room and the kitchen, but nothing came up. Now, a month prior to this, his aunt told his mom that she was selling Coachella tickets that her boyfriend had gotten from his niece, and it never crossed my mind that this ticket was mine. I was starting to get stressed because the ticket was $600, and I was about to have to drive to the venue to pick up my ticket and go to the concert alone. The day before Coachella, my boyfriend's aunt confesses to her crime. Her boyfriend had stolen my ticket and had been trying to sell it off. His aunt tried to say that she had no idea it was my ticket because, according to her, the package had no name on it, which is a complete lie. Once I hear about it, I immediately start shaking and sobbing, feeling betrayed and that we stressed out over nothing. Since they probably already sold the ticket, I couldn't even go to Coachella. My boyfriend then called his mom to tell her how messed up this is, and his parents completely agreed. Now, she never apologizes, but instead just kept up her lies and excuses. I was so fed up that I eventually said, you know it's illegal to steal other people's mail, and I could go to the police about this if I wanted to. Well, when I said this upset his aunt, and I felt bad about this. My boyfriend then said the right thing to do is for my aunt to send us the $600. Now, we haven't talked about this incident ever since then with them, but I know they talk garbage about me to their entire family because that is exactly what they do. In fact, when I go to his family parties, I just stay quiet and I act friendly. I'm an extremely sensitive person, and the thing that hurt the most about this situation is that someone close to me could lie and betray me like that after seeing firsthand how stressed me and her nephew were. I feel like the jerk in this situation because I've created a rift between him and his ex-favorite aunt. I still feel so guilty. So truly, did I overreact and mess up his relationship with his family? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk, and I definitely don't think you messed up. She stole your tickets, like there's no other way around it. And it doesn't sound like she's sorry for what she did, because instead of apologizing for it, she's trying to justify it. And that is so toxic. It honestly is so awful. So no, you're not the jerk for saying you could go to the police, because in all actuality, you absolutely could if you wanted to. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description. My crazy psycho aunt allows her son to rob me blind by literally stealing thousands of dollars worth of Pokemon cards, merchandise, and equipment, while also taking my entire manga collection. And after confronting her and demanding that she give it back to me, she claimed that there was nothing I could do about it and that I would never get my property back. So I decided to escalate things, resulting in my aunt getting arrested. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Okay, so basically, I am a very huge fan of the Pokemon franchise and the anime and manga. I play the games, I play Pokemon Go, I collect the cards and watch the anime, and my collection of cards and my Pokemon Go account both are like decent for someone who doesn't spend that much money on them. I also have an entire collection of mangas, like Attack on Titan and One Piece and stuff like that. Well, my spoiled cousin came over yesterday to my mom's house where I live, and I was outside in the park playing Pokemon Go, and when I arrived home, he was watching TV on the couch. While I was out playing Pokemon Go, I went to a card shop and I bought a booster box of Scarlet and Violet base set. And for reference, a booster box is basically a package that has a lot of Pokemon card packs, and the odds of pulling a rare card are increased in a booster box. Now, my cousin is very jealous of me because of my collection, but honestly, I just ignore him, since if I didn't, he would annoy me like crazy. I opened the booster box, I sorted the cards, and I added them to my collection. After a few hours of me playing Pokemon Scarlet, my cousin came into my room and just sat there. Well, it was getting time for me to go to a hangout to one of my friends' houses, and after a few hours of that, I came back home at about 7 o'clock. I went into my room, and to my absolute shock, all the binders of my cards were gone. My Nintendo Switch was gone with all of its games, and my entire manga collection, with my Crunchyroll account being taken as well, because he changed the password on it. Well, I quickly called my mom, who at the time went to go shopping, and my cousin didn't want to go, so she left him here alone. I informed my mom on what happened over the call because she was still out shopping. So then I called my aunt since my cousin was also not there, and she told me that she had come pick him up and that he's gonna borrow my stuff for a while. She said to me, he wanted your thing, so I allowed it because he's just a child. Now at this point, I completely freaked out. I also checked up on my Pokemon Go account, and guess what I see? My password was changed. So probably he also gets the details from my tablet, since I also keep Pokemon Go on there in case my phone is not cooperating and just keeps crashing. My My card collection is valued over 6 figures in US dollars. The Nintendo Switch and all the games cost well over $1,000, and my Pokemon Go account is probably worth about 860 US dollars, with my entire manga collection being well over $4,000. I said I was gonna call the cops if all my stuff wasn't returned, and my aunt said to me, go ahead and call them. I will just lie and tell them that your cousin owns all of this. So that's exactly what I did. And after I called the cops and showed security camera footage of them stealing all my stuff, the cops quickly reviewed the footage and went and arrested my aunt, since she was the only one old enough to arrest, as my cousin was left in the house. I currently don't know what else is happening, but I will provide updates as they come along, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this is crazy. Your aunt is not only a piece of garbage, but the fact that she would allow this to happen in the first place is insane in my opinion. Here's the thing, I really do believe the original poster here, because some of these Pokemon cards can be very expensive. Just look up some of the prices on these cards, especially if they have a collection of older vintage sets. Like, I can really believe the fact that they've sunk thousands of dollars into this. Like, this really is not a cheap hobby. This really does have some serious money behind it. So the fact that your aunt allowed their kid to basically rob you blind and steal all your accounts and your equipment, like, that is crazy. That is absolutely insane. So seriously, I really hope this all gets worked out for you, because the way you're being treated right now is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk tries to leave his motorcycle in the middle of our gas pumps, claiming that this would be the perfect spot for him to park his bike while he grabs some groceries across the street. And I'm honestly still stunned by this guy's idiotic behavior, and I really hope I don't have to deal with him ever again. Here's what happened. I had a customer come in earlier on a motorcycle where they got some snacks and some gas, and honestly we didn't really have any issues, and they really started off as a friendly guy. Well, as he was paying, he looked back out the window at his motorcycle, still parked at the pump, and started telling me that that should be a good enough spot for him to leave his bike, as he's got to grab some things from the grocery store next door. Now obviously you guys know why that's a bad thing to do. It's common sense not to do it. So I was kind of surprised I even had to explain to the guy that no, you can't leave your motorcycle parked at the gas pumps while you go shopping in another store. Well, you would think I was trying to explain astrophysics to him for how confused he was by that. I did point out that he's welcome to bring his bike to park at the side of the building or in any of the parking spots at the grocery store's parking lot. I mean, it is literally next door. We share parking spaces, and it's not going to be any more effort for him to take his bike over there than it is to walk to the store. Well, this guy started saying, "How dare you tell me what I can't do?" And he was super aggressive about this. He was literally trying to argue that he was just gonna grab a few things so it would be quick. It's just a motorcycle, it's not taking up that much space. But it's like, my guy, that's not the issue. You can't park at the pumps and then dip out, because then customers who need it can't use the gas pumps. I don't think he ever understood why he can't just park and bail, because that requires thinking about something other than yourself. But eventually, he just begrudgingly said that he would take his bike over to the grocery store, which apparently was like the biggest inconvenience in the world. And I'm honestly still shocked by this guy's stupidity. Yeah, that guy really is incredibly stupid. Seriously, you can't just block a gas pump and be like, "Oh, this is fine, right? I'm just gonna be gone for like a few seconds." And the fact that you guys share the same parking spaces as a grocery store, like, that is so weird to me, and honestly, there's no excuse for that. That guy was just being super lazy, and honestly, the fact that you shut that down and got him out of there, in my opinion, was the best thing you could have done in this situation. Am I overreacting for the way my brother and his wife treated my family at his wedding ceremony? Because right now, I'm still incredibly upset, and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my brother and I are very close. He's a best friend to me, and we talk almost every day. Unfortunately, his wife and I don't always see eye to eye. In fact, we both have young children around the same age. He calls me one night and asks me to take him to the hospital because he threw out his back. On the car ride there, I told him that he needs to take better care of himself since he's a father now, and that his girls need him. Mind you, this isn't the first time I've taken him to the ER for this same issue. It's also midnight, and I had to wait for him to get treated, and eventually dropped him back off at home at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was a bit annoyed, and I told him that I couldn't keep doing this for him because I have work and kids of my own now. Well, I come to find out later, he went home and tells his wife all of this, and they both get upset with me. They were legally married, but never had a wedding ceremony. There have been talks about having one, but they never follow through with it. Well, they decided to plan one within 2 weeks of this incident. It was a last-minute backyard wedding. The food was potluck style, and they didn't even have lights, so it was done mostly in the dark. He invites me and the family to the wedding as guests, and when when the ceremony begins, I find out that his best man is our aunt's husband, who he isn't even close with. And I was stunned because he didn't pick me, even though he was my best man. His groomsmen are friends and family, and his ring bearer is our 19-year-old cousin instead of my 3-year-old or my 5-year-old son. He then proceeds to give a speech and thank every single person who attended, going as far as to mention all of their names, and there were about 20 people, but obviously leaves my family out of it. I was so upset that I told my wife we were leaving, and I dragged the family out. I called him a couple days later, and he acted like everything was fine. I told him what he did upset me, and that's when he told me what happened the night after the ER. He said that he felt like I was telling him how to live his life, and that me telling him to do it for his children was me calling him a bad father. I asked him where he got all this from, and he said he told his wife what I said, and that's what she assumed I was saying, which honestly doesn't surprise me. I told him unless he wants to apologize to me, there's no reason for us to speak any further, and then I just hung up on him. Well, fast forward 6 months later, and I wake up to 8 missed calls from his wife. Well, I just ignore it, and then I receive a paragraph text explaining to me that they are having marital problems, and that she is afraid of losing him. She then asked me to speak with him to try and save their marriage. Now, I just left her on red, but my wife is telling me that I'm overreacting and that I should help them. Now, I honestly don't think it's my problem, but am I the one overreacting in this situation? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh no, you are definitely not overreacting. Your brother's wife sabotaged his relationship with you. She literally made up some scheme like, oh yeah, he's saying you're a bad father. And then because of that, you get completely ignored at this stupid wedding ceremony. Like, that is so unfair for you, it's not even funny. And honestly, what does this lady think you're gonna do when it comes to her marriage? Like, how is this your business at all? So truly, you didn't do anything wrong, and if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be staying out of this. Like, you do not have a dog in this fight, and I can only see this becoming a lot worse if you did get involved. So no, you're definitely not overreacting from this, because the way they treated you was incredibly unkind. Am I the jerk for calling out my grandparents for all the stuff they said to my mom in front of their friends and extended family? Because after they got exposed, they're now saying that I'm incredibly disrespectful for calling them out. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old female, and my parents and I spent Saturday with my dad's family. So when my mom went missing in action for a bit longer than usual, I went looking for her and I found her upset. She said nothing was wrong, but an hour later, I heard my grandparents call her a bad mom, and I stopped and admittedly, I eavesdropped on what they were saying. They were saying that my mom should be ashamed for crying where I could see her. And how did my dad ever let her raise me with him when she abandoned me when I was a baby for weeks and didn't even care about me back then? They said that my mom was a lunatic and should be ashamed of herself for ruining my family. Now for context, my mom had postpartum psychosis after I was born. She got really sick and spent 11 weeks in a hospital and in a treatment center to try and help her because she was really at risk. My dad tried to get her help, but a lot of people dismissed him. I was maybe 8 or 9 weeks old before someone took him seriously and finally helped him with mom and got her the help that she needed. The experience left them both incredibly shaken, and it took my mom a long time to fully recover. But when she had, they were afraid to risk more kids, and so they decided that they were one and done with me. Now, I've always been aware of this, so hearing my grandparents speak to my mom like that was awful. Mom finally left them while I was still eavesdropping, and she pulled away and said it was okay. A while later, a group of us were in the kitchen eating, and my grandparents were making comments about how lucky some people were to have a lot of grandkids, and how much it helps when each kid has more than one. Well, my dad was like, wait a second, what's going on? But that's when I snapped, and I brought up how awful they were to make more digs at my mom. I called them out on it. I said it was disgusting, and mom didn't deserve the crap they said. My grandparents told me that I didn't understand, and I know they love me, but I said they sure didn't talk like that. I said calling my mom a lunatic and rubbing it in her face that she only had me and no more with dad when they know she was sick after me made it seem like I just wasn't enough for them. I also said it was awful to shame a woman who made the safest choice for her family. My dad was furious with his parents and asked what in the world was going on. They then slipped up and basically confessed that they'd been saying awful stuff to mom ever since I was a baby, and they were saying this always behind everybody's back so we wouldn't know. They tried to lecture me about calling them out, but dad shut it down and asked me and mom to wait in the car. Well, apparently some of the extended family are against me now for calling out my grandparents in front of others, and my grandparents are saying how disrespectful I am. But my dad raged at anyone who blamed me. But I wonder if maybe I should have handled it more privately. Like maybe I should have told my dad about this instead of calling them out in the way that I did. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. These grandparents absolutely knew what they were doing, and I personally am a big believer that if you want to talk crap about somebody, especially behind their back, then you deserve to be exposed if you get found out. And the things they were saying about the original poster's mom is so unkind, it's not even funny. And it is absolutely. I found out that my wife has been cheating on me with an ex-boyfriend from high school. So I decided to get some revenge by not only divorcing my wife on the spot, but also by completely ruining her cheating affair partner's life.